welcome back to Recovery Demystified. My name's Early. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. Today I got to interview my friend Elise. We've worked together at a restaurant for a few years now, and I've seen her go through the ringer on a lot of the things she talks about in the story. Definitely seen that sweet girl have a hangover so bad she couldn't tear the plastic bag off of a bundle of boxes. And she talks a lot about what it is like to date someone who is pretty severe in their addiction, dating abusive people, and how it can affect our addictions and our outcomes. And it was honestly super relatable for me. And it's been really great to see her grow and change over the years and go from that person with the scary boyfriend to shaving her head and reclaiming herself, and now dating someone who's very sweet and gentle and kind, and just watch her grow and change. And I wanted to bring up something called the Rat Park experiment, and this interview really reminded me of that. So basically, Rat Park, not that I'm into animal testing, y'all, but the Rat Park experiment, basically they had one rat in a cage with cocaine water and regular water, and the rat would drink cocaine water until it died. And that was how scientists got the theory that a chemical hook is what makes us addicted to substances. And that theory was, we proved it with science for years and years and years, but as it turns out, it was just kind of bad science, because later on, a different scientist took a huge cage and put a bunch of rats in it and made it really nice, rat paradise. They call it Rat Park, right? So the rats, they have shit to play on. They have other rats to have sex with and be friends with. And they're just in there, living their best fucking lives. And they have cocaine water and regular water. And they go up to the cocaine water and they'll test it out. But none of them ever get addicted and none of them ever die from the cocaine water like they did when they were in isolation. And that's because rats are a lot like humans, where they get depressed when they're isolated and self-medicate, right? So instead, when they're in the Rat Park, they have really no reason to sit there and get addicted to the cocaine water. They might have it once in a while, but they're happy. And so what scientists proved with this better experiment was that substances are something that we use chronically in our lives to numb out painful situations, such as loneliness. And Elise is one of those people who goes from having a pretty severe addiction when the circumstances of her life were scary and abusive and sad and lonely and tragic. And then she spends this time and effort and energy to change her life, to make it something that she no longer needs to escape from. And now she has basically a healthy relationship to substances. She quit using nicotine because she identified that as something that had no benefit for her. She uses alcohol and cannabis in moderation, and that's on healing. There's this false narrative that once someone is an alcoholic, which is fucking made up word that we need to throw in the garbage, but the false notion that once someone has a hardcore addiction, that they need to be completely abstinent, because if they go back out, they're just going to use to that same extent and die. And for some of us, that's true. Me personally in my life, I know if I went back out, that you'd have to pick me up from jail the next day. You know what I mean? I'm gonna black out. It's not gonna work for me. But for other people who are different than me, like Elise, when the circumstances of their lives change and it's something that they no longer need to numb out and be afraid and escape from, then they can go back to controlled use of substances. These people exist. Their stories are real and their stories are valid. And I am so glad that she came and talked about everything that she talked about today. She gets into some really hard topics, like I said, an abusive partner. She talks a lot about her eating disorder. So if those are things that you maybe can't listen to right now, then just please take good care. So without further ado, here is my episode with Elise. Hello, Elise. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm nervous, but yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Also, always a little nervous before we start doing these things, so that makes sense. Will you start by introducing yourself to the audience? Let them know your pronouns and a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I'm 25. I go by she, her. I'm a hairstylist by trade and a server by circumstance. In this economy, it's so hard to do what we actually want to do. So I used to bartend, but I had to take a step back. We'll definitely get into that today. And I'm a Scorpio through and through.
Scorpio through and through. What does that mean to you?
I mean, when you just think of the stereotypical Scorpio, like, I'm there. Like, I'm mysterious. I'm a little crazy. I'm jealous.
Scorpio through and through.
Through and through.
All right. Well, we're here today to talk about your story with addiction and recovery. So I'm curious what it was like for you to be a kid, maybe some of your first encounters with alcohol and substances, kind of when things got bad, and what made you think about reevaluating your relationship with things. So yeah, start wherever you'd like.
So my parents didn't really drink. Like, we had alcohol in the house, but it was more for cooking. Like, I remember them using wine and stuff for cooking, but I was not raised around alcohol. I think my parents were trying to be, like, kind of the opposite of their parents in that way. But I think for me, addiction started with, like, nicotine at a really young age, or young to me. Some people, start crazy young, but...
So your parents didn't really have any addiction problems, but it sounds like maybe your grandparents did, and then you were interested in nicotine at a young age. Did anyone in your family smoke? Like, how did all that come up?
So, yeah, no, my parents were, like, very anti-nicotine, anti-alcohol, and then I think just around the age of, like, 13, 14, I actually had to quit soccer. I was really, really into soccer. Like, being an athlete was, like, my identity, and I had to quit because I got multiple concussions. And I also think that did some, like, brain damage. I don't know, because I was just very different after that. I kind of fell in with the wrong crowd at school, definitely started hanging out with kids that were smoking, started smoking a lot of weed. And, like 13, 14, 15 was kind of when that started going down. And when I started getting, like, curious about alcohol as well.
Do you remember, did you seek it out, or was it circumstantial? Do you remember the first time you ever smoked nicotine or smoked weed?
Weed, I definitely remember, like, clear as day. It was, like, right outside the school I was going to at the time. Like, in a bush in this apartment building, like, right next to the school. And then I just, like, went into school, like, high for my first time, and honestly had a great day. It was honestly a magical experience. Nicotine, I can't really remember a first time. I just know that, like, by the time I was, like, 16, 17, I had a pack with me at all times of cigarettes, and then I started vaping also as well. I was kind of doing both back and forth. Yeah,
I was going to ask if it was cigarettes or vaping, but it was both.
It was both. It was both for a pretty long time. And I actually just recently quit, but, we'll get there later. But
I'm interested if you would talk a little bit more about the difference between before having concussions and your experience of having concussions, and, like, how that changed you, because I think that's probably a pretty common thing that happens to people that do sports, and it's kind of intense to have it happen to you when you're so young. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I definitely felt like, just having to quit my sport that I cared about, affected me. I became really depressed because of that. But also the concussions themselves, like, I had, like, migraines all the time afterwards, where I didn't really have any, like, chronic pain before that. Like, I was a very, very healthy kid, like, zero issues, was very blessed. But, after that, like, I would just get headaches, and I would just, like, have to leave school because I just, like, couldn't focus. And I felt like there was some, not from, like, my parents or, like, teachers or anything, but, like, some people definitely thought I was kind of, like, faking it, and that made me feel bad. But it was, like, no, I was, like, actually in a lot of pain. So, yeah, I definitely kind of started smoking to alleviate that, and I guess I didn't even think of it that way at the time, but that's what I was doing. And, same with nicotine, was just, like, anything to numb the feelings I was having and, like, the disappointment I had in myself.
Wow. And was it, like, the doctor or your parents, or was it your choice? Like, how did the quitting have to happen at that time?
The doctor was definitely like, yeah, you probably should. You've had, like, 2 and, like, another, like, minor one. Like, you probably should not play anymore. My parents were like, obviously we want you to do what you want to do. And I ultimately was like, yeah, no, it's not worth it to, like, be in pain. And then also quitting soccer, I started to gain weight because I wasn't, working out super hard every day and, eating like an athlete should or whatever. And that definitely led to some, like, disordered eating as well. That was honestly, like, a huge part of my life from ages, like, 14 to 22. I wouldn't even say I really healed from that until the last couple of years, but that had a huge impact on the way I use substances as well, too.
How did the disordered eating start? Like, was it peer pressure, social media? Like, do you remember, like, the thought process of what made you start having body image issues?
Definitely social media was a huge part. Also, like, my family's just really athletic. Like, my mom is, 55 and in great shape. Like, my sisters are, smaller framed people. Like, I don't know, just like everyone around me was smaller. So when I started gaining weight, I instantly felt like odd girl out, like I felt like something was wrong with me, I really didn't know how to handle it.
And I'm guessing, like, comparing yourself to others quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of that.
Yeah. So how did that progress over the years? Because I know that a lot of times, like, addictive behavior is sort of, like, reflected in disordered eating behavior as well. So is it the type of thing that got, like, worse and worse? Like, did you ever try to quit? Like, how did that process go for you throughout high school?
I felt like I definitely would, like, not eat as much because I wanted to get more drunk, or I would, like, smoke cigarettes to, like, curb my appetite. So that's kind of how it tied in for sure. A lot of it really was just, like, not being happy with myself. And I think a lot of people aren't very happy with themselves in high school. So, like, I'm not special in that way. But it was just, like, being, like, deeply unhappy with myself and wanting to be smaller and party and be perceived as cool and, all the things.
And did using substances or the disordered eating behavior, did either of those things give you that at the time?
Oh, no. I mean, no, I definitely got, pretty small at one point. I definitely was, there was a point where my parents brought me to an eating disorder specialist because they were like, oh, this is, we're kind of noticing it now. And that did help. Like, it did kind of suppress it for a while. But then when I was older, like, out of high school, it kind of would come back during COVID, which, I mean, COVID was a really hard time for everyone, but I had, like, genuinely, like, the worst year of my life, 2020, and I went from, like, a healthy weight, like, I'd kind of recovered and was, like, working on myself to, like, losing 40 pounds in just, like, a couple months and being, like, barely able to, like, stand up and, like, take a walk around the block because I was so, like, malnourished.
So it's interesting to me that it's like the behavior is something that we're doing to try to, like, make us feel better, but then ultimately it's, like, kind of making you feel worse. Like, when you were losing all that weight or when you were so small that your parents brought you to the eating disorder specialist, were you looking in the mirror and being like, oh, I've won, I'm beautiful now, and I feel great about myself? Or, like, where's your headspace at, like, when you're that far into it?
Oh, yeah, no, none of that. You definitely never feel good enough. Like, you can, reach your goal weight or, the size you want to be. Like, I remember there was a time where, like, extra smalls were, like, baggy on me, and I still felt, like, too big. Because it wasn't about my size. It was never about my size. It was just about, like, myself and, like, the way I viewed myself, my self-worth. Like, that was what was really struggling. Now, I mean, I've gained weight. I don't hate myself. Like, I can accept my body at any size now, so I know that, like, it ultimately wasn't about size. It was just about, like, self-worth and, like, not having much of it.
Is that what they taught you at the eating disorder specialist?
Some of that. Honestly, I remember it being... She's so good. She's, like, sneaky good. She wouldn't even really talk about my eating disorder so much as just trying to figure out, like, why I was, like, unhappy, like, at the time. Like, she wasn't, like, really, because people lie. You can lie to your therapist about, like, whatever. So, she asked me how much I was eating or whatever. I could say whatever, and she knew that. So I feel like it was more like, so when did this start? Like, when did you start disliking yourself? Like, when did you start feeling like you needed to change yourself?
And it all went back to the concussions and having to quit soccer?
I really think so. That was definitely kind of the conclusion I came to. I felt like, and it did happen while I was going through puberty, and a lot of people, I think, kind of start suffering with mental illness during that time. That's when you kind of, like, self-actualize, and it was just a rough time for all of those things to be happening, I guess. But yeah, it was about, like, 13, 14 when it really got bad.
Yeah, and the new hormonal fluctuations are definitely something that it's kind of hard to learn how to reckon with at that age, for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, I was a mess. And I know you've talked about, like, being diagnosed as bipolar and then later on realizing it was more of the addiction that was making these, like, attributes come out of you. And I definitely feel the same because I was never fully, like, diagnosed, but I was put on bipolar medication. So I, can kind of put 2 and 2 together there. Was that when you were a teenager as well? Yeah, I think I was, like, 15, 16 when that was going on, yeah. And you're also, so when you said you started with smoking weed and cigarettes at around like 13, 14, when did like alcohol come into the picture and how did substances play into like your teenage years? So I can remember having like sips of alcohol as young as, 12, 13, but I don't really remember ever getting drunk until I was probably 16 and I was just going to like parties with friends on the weekend. Pretty normal. I wouldn't really like say any of us had a problem. Me and all my friends kind of just like would get a bottle, go to a party, take a couple shots, and then that'd be that. Like I really was more of a stoner throughout high school. I loved smoking weed. That was my big addiction. Loved cigarettes. It wasn't actually until I was like 19 that I really started drinking heavy, and it was because I was dating somebody who was a couple years older, so he had access to alcohol, and he was definitely an alcoholic. I'm sure he would call himself that now. And yeah, we just like, he pretty much taught me how to drink. Like I take accountability for my own choices and like I chose to do that. But definitely being with someone that was a bit older and was very comfortable, just, spending a lot of their time drinking was really, really not good for me at that age. How much older was he than you? Oh, just like 3 years. So I was 19 and I guess he was 22, so. And when you were drinking in high school, you said it was just kind of like innocent, like normal teenage experimentation. Were you ever like binge drinking or blacking out or having hangovers? Did you have any like negative repercussions at all in high school? Definitely a little bit of binge drinking. I remember being hungover a couple of times, but I don't even think like me and my friend group at that time knew like how much we needed to get drunk. Like I said, we would just kind of like take a couple shots and be like, woo, okay, we're there, Like it wasn't until we got, quite a bit older that I think everyone kind of started drinking a bit more. But at first it was like pretty casual. Yeah, that makes sense. For me in high school, it was like there was never an off button or whatever. Like it just started out like, yeah, immediate like blackouts and acting insane and complete chaos. So it's interesting to hear other people's experiences with like having that just sort of nothing is normal, but like that teenage experimentation that like doesn't necessarily take it too far. At that time, was the drinking connected with the disordered eating and the self-image issues, or was it just having fun? I think that was more of just like a having fun period in my life. I definitely like had issues that I was, hiding and wasn't like facing, but yeah, no, like when I look back on it, I was genuinely happy a lot of the time. And the eating disorder I felt like was really bad, like 13 through 15, and then 16 through 19-ish. It was on the back burner. Like it was still something I struggled with, but I wasn't like underweight and I wasn't like really hurting myself with it. Like I said, I was just smoking a lot of weed, and actually weed kind of helped in that way because I was, I'd get an appetite and be like, okay, I can eat, like it's no big deal. And by that time, you were already talking with the eating disorder specialist too, right? So yes. In theory, you were getting treatment? Yes, exactly. And actually not just in theory, like it seems like it actually genuinely helped. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say so. So you graduate high school? I graduate high school. I go to college for a bit, but I drop out after a year because I knew I wanted to do hair at that point. So yeah, I'm like 19. I'm dating this guy who drinks a lot. And he's not like a bad guy. Like, I don't want anyone to listen to this and think I'm like talking shit, because he was a decent dude. He just really liked to drink and party, and that's what I learned to do when I was with him. And then 2020 happens. My childhood dog dies. I'd had this dog since I was like a baby, and you know me, I don't even like dogs like that early. I like cats, but when it's your buddy like that. Yes, no, like this was like my soulmate in dog form. And So yeah, dog dies in 2020. I move in with this, person I was dating that was an alcoholic at the time in February. So dog dies January, move in February. COVID hits in March. I have to, quit my serving job because the restaurant's closed, and I have to drop out of hair school because, everything's shutting down. So I just felt like I lost like a lot of my life, and everyone did. Again, I'm not saying I'm special in this, but everyone lost a lot of things in COVID. But I was just like, it was just one after the other, and then I went through like a really explosive breakup from this guy who was drinking a lot, and we just got to a point where we were fighting all the time. So yeah, we broke up, and yeah, no, I just really felt like my life was like crumbling around me, and I just went full send into like alcoholism and smoking like a pack a day, not eating. That's when the eating disorder kind of came back. I remember, I literally remember going like 3 or 4 days, like having nothing in my system but like black coffee and cigarettes and alcohol. And I don't know how I did that, but that was my life for a couple months there during COVID.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit more about what it was like and how you're affected by dating someone who had an alcohol addiction? Like, because this also, I mean, to a different extent, I've also experienced this, like when I would was in my addiction and would live with someone who was in their addiction. It was just like feeding off of each other a lot, and there's no filter on it, as compared to like living with people or a person who like doesn't keep alcohol in the house. So it's just like night and day difference. Can you talk a little bit more about how it affected you and like how much more you were drinking and like what was different then?
Yeah, no, so like I said, I went from, just having a couple shots at parties and like maybe drinking a beer to, this person would have a 30-pack of PBR in their fridge and a bottle of Jameson at all times, like just constantly. And he was the type of drinker that was like really, really fun in groups. Everyone thought he was just like the life of the party and like so fun. And then we'd go home and I would have to deal with him like, throwing up and peeing on stuff, and he'd get mad at me sometimes. I wouldn't even like go to the level of like abuse with him or anything, but he definitely would get like, angry and like drunk, but it was just like more annoying than anything else. I was always just like, shut up, dude. Like, you're so drunk right now. You don't even know what you're saying. But then like to everyone else, they were like, when I broke up with him, I had friends being like, well, why? He's such a nice guy. He's so fun. And I was like, y'all don't even know the half of it. You don't even know this person, But it, it amped up how much I was drinking for sure. I don't even think I drank whiskey before, like, being with this person. And then after that, I was a whiskey girl for a minute there.
Was it just because there it was right in front of you, you were reaching out to grab it? Or was it like he was like, let's have a drink together? Or what made you reach for it more and more?
I think, like, wanting to feel connected to him and, like, wanting to... I hate saying like FOMO or like feeling left out, but it's like, I mean, if he's going to have a good time and drink and I'm not just going to sit here and be sober in front of him, like that's, kind of lame, or, that's how I felt at the time. But,
yeah. I mean, that's super valid. FOMO is like, it's such a strong human emotion. I'm glad we have a word for it now.
Oh, yeah.
And he was fun out in public, and then peeing on stuff and puking at the house, also relatable. But he seemed to always be like drunker than you were because you were taking care of him, or was it like the both of you were just kind of out of it?
I definitely, he was drunker than me most times. I think I knew that I had to be the responsible one, even though I was, the younger one. I knew that like I felt like a mom. I really did feel like a mom in that relationship because I had to be the one that was like, I had to drive. Even if I had drank a lot, I had to be the one to drive us home. So bad. I was always taking care of him, so I knew I couldn't get too messed up. A couple times I might have drank more than him or, just gotten more drunk than him, but definitely not often.
So it sounds like you have an off button. Do you have an off button for drinking? Do you know what I mean?
Like, oh no, like what do you mean?
Like you get to a certain point and you're like, well, I better not drink anymore tonight because I have to take care of my partner.
So at this time in my life, yes. At 19, 20, I did have an off button. I eventually would not. I eventually would get to the point where I was blacking out pretty frequently. So after I broke up with this boyfriend, literally just like a couple months later, I get into another relationship with an even bigger alcoholic. And I would refer to this person as my abuser. Like when I talk about them with people, I'm like, that person abused me. And that was when I got into like really like blacking out and not knowing what was going on, not like caring about anything in my life. That was when alcohol had like a really severely detrimental effect on me.
So what's the timeline here? Like, because I know you said you had a hard time when 2020 started. Which, are you single, or which one of them are you dating during that time?
So both. So I would break up with first alcoholic boyfriend in the summer of 2020, and I would be with the next one by the fall, pretty much.
And in that 3 months in between, did you ever like question your drinking? Did you drink the same amount? Did you drink less? Like what was going on during the 3 months that you were single?
I was drinking a lot. I really was. And I think to my friends that were around me at the time, I was very like sneaky about it. I was doing a lot of drinking alone. Like me and my friends would have plans to drink, but I would be drinking before and after we hung out. So to them, they're like, oh, she doesn't have a problem. We just had a couple beers. Like, it's fine. But like I was blacking out a lot during that period, and I don't really think anyone in my life knew.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is if, you kept that to yourself, or if anyone knew, and it sounds like they didn't. Did you question it at all during that time? Were you like, oh, I'm getting, like, this is some red flag behavior, or were you not questioning it?
I kind of wasn't questioning it. I mean, I was like 20, about to turn 21. It was, COVID. I felt like during COVID, I felt like a lot of people were just like, just do what you have to do. This is unprecedented times. Like, no one knows how to cope right now. Like, we're all just, Xanax moms drinking wine at home right now. Like, do what you gotta, that was kind of my attitude, was truly like, this is like the worst time of my life. I think I'm just going to let myself feel it and just, not feel it, I guess. I was numbing it with alcohol, but I was just letting myself have a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense doing whatever you have to do to survive. And a lot of times, like, especially people with addictions, it's like numbing out is survival for as long as it is. And it's kind of like an odd perspective for some people, but I take time to be like super grateful to alcohol and drugs because I'm like, it's kind of an abusive relationship there, but it's like you're hurting me towards the end, but for a long time there, it's like you also fucking kept me alive. Because sometimes we do need to numb out, and maybe it's not super healthy, but it's like, thank you for keeping me alive during that time. So that makes sense. What was going on then? Do you ever think about like what made you choose this type of person as a partner?
I do. And I'm like, what? I know like later in life when I was drinking a lot, no one who's not an alcoholic really wants to date an alcoholic. So I definitely got into a habit of just kind of dating people who drank a lot and partied. But that first relationship, I really don't know. I think I just genuinely really liked that guy. Like, I just liked him for who he was. And then he was an alcoholic. So then after that, I just kind of was stuck in that spiral of dating people who like to drink too much.
Yeah. So what went on? Did you like move in with the second guy, the abusive one, or like what went on with that relationship?
Okay, so luckily never lived with him, but I feel like honestly I just have to tell like a couple stories like to really understand what was going on.
Go for it.
So I had been hanging out with this new person, and I had said like, I'm not ready for a relationship. I just got out of one. I was like very open and honest about the fact that my ex was an alcoholic and that I, also struggled with it. And at the time, this person was like, kind of not really drinking a lot. They were kind of like, on the upward spiral. And I was like, oh, like maybe I could like try that. Like maybe we could kind of, explore sobriety a little bit together. And then I felt like after a couple weeks of hanging out, we both like dropped the facade and just started drinking again like crazy. Like it literally was like a couple weeks. Like we were like, oh yeah, like you're trying not to drink so much, me too. And like we really bonded over that. And then they say you can only fake it for so long. I think it's 3 months. Like when you're dating someone, you can fake like your personality for 3 months, and then I think we essentially did that to each other, and then we both took off the mask and we're like, surprise, I actually am still crazy and I still like to drink a lot and I still like to, do drugs or whatever. But yeah, so I was trying not to date them. I didn't want to date them. I didn't want to be physical with them. But there was this one night where, so they call me at 2 a.m. and I'm asleep. I'm dead asleep. And I'm like, oh my God, what's up? Why are you calling me at 2 a.m.? And they're like, you have to come pick me up from this bar. I'm about to get into a fight with this person. If you don't come pick me up, I'm about to fight somebody. So I'm like, oh crap, I'm on the rescue team. I gotta go. I hop in my car, I go get him. And when I get there, there's no fight happening. He's chilling. So obviously trap. So, I pick him up and I'm driving him to his mom's house. He lives with his mom at the time.
Nice.
And he realizes that I'm driving him to his mom's house. And he's like, no, I want to go to your house. I want to go into your apartment and I want to sleep with you. And I was like, no, I'm not really ready for that. I told you I thought we were just friends. And then he starts yelling at me and telling me how stupid I am and annoying and how dare I lead him on like this. He thought if I was picking him up, of course I'd bring him home. And he threatens to jump out of my car while I'm going 40, 50 miles per hour. So I brake and I'm freaking out and screaming and he's screaming. And I eventually drive to a mutual friend's house who we both knew and who I knew would be okay with me essentially dumping him on them. And I'm trying to get him out of my car, but he won't. And he really forcibly grabs me and tries to kiss me. And it's just I just remember the feeling of our teeth hitting. He's just hitting my face into his face and trying to grab me. And I'm just I literally had to fight him off. I remember punching him and hitting him as hard as I could to get him out of the car. And he eventually does, and he goes inside and I guess just passes out on my friend's floor.
Damn, that sounds really scary. I'm so sorry that happened.
Yeah, no, and I haven't really told many people about that. That's not something many people know. But the next day he texted me and is like, oh my God, what even happened last night? I blacked out, I don't remember. And I was like, no, you weren't. You didn't black out. You know exactly what happened. And I told him, and, he did he was really, really good at apologies. He was really good at pretending that, he would never do it again. And he used this excuse of, oh, I'm just so into you, and I'm just so nervous, and you would, friend zone me, I just didn't know how to make a move. I think I just had to be really drunk to make a move. And I was like, well, yeah, that was sexual assault, kind of. But that was not the end of it. I did forgive him, and we did actually start dating after that, crazy enough. Because I think part of me didn't really want to accept that it was, wrong or bad, or, that I had been, treated badly in any way. So I was just I really convinced myself. I was like, oh no, he really is sorry, and he really was just nervous, and he really does like me, whatever,
It's also so hard with abusive people because I've been in a number of abusive relationships for some reason. I don't know. It's I'm just when I start dating someone, it's just okay, you're hot and that's good enough or something, at least when I was younger. And yeah, it's when they do something fucked up to you, it sucks and it hurts so bad. But something about abusive people, they're just able to apologize in this way that's so believable. And I'm who taught you how to do that? Because it's
literally
so intensely manipulative, but you believe them and you want them to be this nice, loving, forgivable person until the pattern just kind of goes on for too long and you're these apologies are meaningless, the behavior is not changing here.
And I also think that sometimes when people are really capable of being really, really bad, they're also somehow really capable of being really, really good. Because this person, I will also say, at the time, I was, deep in my eating disorder again. COVID really set that off. And he was, the first partner I ever had that, noticed my eating habits and was hey, I'm worried about you. I actually, am noticing this about you. And, I think, maybe you should, try to gain a little weight or try to fix it. And in the past, I'd actually been really, validated by partners. When I started to lose weight, partners would be oh, you look so good. You look so, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think I kind of was really like attached to him for that reason, because in my messed up little brain I was like, oh my god, he like healed my eating disorder, he told me I could gain weight, like, and that's so crazy to say out loud, but I was really attached to him for that reason, I think, and among other reasons. I liked this person, I did.
Yeah, gosh, you're kind of bringing up a lot of like stuff and memories for me too, because now I'm like thinking about the abusive relationships I've been into, and it's like it does make sense too to also not just be like, this person is an abuser and that's it, right? Because like a lot of like they say hurt people or whatever, and I think about like the people that I've dated that hurt me, that like what they had described going through in their childhoods, and like of course I was dating them, there's things about them that I also like loved and was attracted to, and it's like people can be like complicated and in pain and have good parts about them and also be acting like motherfuckers and literally being like super abusive and fucked up, and it's like both of those things can be true, you know, like they can be hurt and lovable and sweet and kind and motherfuckers at the same time. And it's just like we have to figure out with ourselves like what are our boundaries and like what is a pattern of abuse, and when do we need to like execute self-care and remove ourselves from these situations. But it is like, you're just reminding me like how fucking complicated it is. What is this? It's like I loved the people that were abusing me, you know? I love so many things about them.
No, it's so true. Well, and it's like, because if it was all bad, we wouldn't have stayed, right?
Yeah.
Like, there had to be something that made it worth it. There had to be something that made us feel like, you know, loved and connected to. But yeah, no, a lot of people in my life could not understand why I was with this person, and that actually brings me into my second story. My 21st birthday. This is definitely one of, like, the worst nights of my life. It started fine. We went out like at midnight because I was, you know, turning 21 at midnight. So we had 2 hours, and in that 2 hours, all hell broke loose. So this was like really one of my first times like with my friends being around this person. So my friends were a bit older, so they also could go out that night. And yeah, he was with them, and I remember taking like 2 double shots of whiskey like very early in the night, and or not early, I mean, it was already midnight shit. So I remember taking like 2 double shots of whiskey, and I remember going to a bar and sitting on a couch, like with all my friends around the couch and like, you know, my partner next to me, and my friend says something that he doesn't like, and eventually, like, so I black out. I remember sitting on this couch. I remember feeling like, oh, they're arguing. What's going on? Like, why is there arguing? This can't be good. Blackout. I think my brain was protecting me by blacking me out in that moment. My brain was like, you do not want to see what is about to occur. So he essentially, like, you know, gets into this fight with my friends, and just from what they tell me the next morning, he was saying like awful things, like physically threatening them, physically threatening their boyfriends, just being like evil, like just saying like really crazy things that, like, you should never say to somebody. And I can't even repeat it because I wasn't conscious. I don't even really know what was said. But I just remember like the morning after, the day of my birthday, having a lot of texts from my friends being like, you know, we love you, but like if this is who you're going to be with, we can't like be around you. So I like broke up with him for like a day or two, but I was just so like stuck in this cycle that I, you know, got back together with him and lost 2 of my like really closest, bestest friends.
Damn, so they like held up that boundary with you?
Yeah, no, and I respect them for it. Because they were threatened. It'd be a little bit different if I was the one being threatened and they, you know, abandoned me or left me when I obviously needed people. But it was like he threatened their lives and safety. So I 100% respect and agree with their decision to distance themselves from me. But that obviously doesn't make it like hurt any less. And I've you know, 5 years later, I've rekindled my friendships with these people, like, all good. But yeah, no, that was like really devastating. Like it took me like a really long time to recover from that night.
Dang. Yeah, that sounds scary, and it makes sense that, yeah, your brain was like, we got to get out of here. We can't watch him be a part of this. And you said Am I getting it right that you said that's the first time your friends had hung out with you and your boyfriend at the same time?
They'd, like, been around him in passing, but yes, I mean, that was, like, the first time we really all just, like, went out to drink. I mean, it was the first time I could go out to drink. I was, 21, so.
Was there something to that, though? Like, was he, like, keeping you from your friends, or did they just not want to be around him before that? Like,
well, so he had a reputation. He was, he had a really bad reputation. He was known for being violent and an alcoholic, and my friends were already, like, definitely on the fence about him, and I think that's a big part of where the fight started, was because my friends were already, like, really unaccepting of him for a good reason, but he just proved their point, like, they poked the bear, and he did the thing, he came out swinging.
Dang. I'm sorry your birthday got ruined.
No, I've had such amazing birthdays since then. It's, like, not even a big deal, but yeah.
Dang. So you dump him, you get back together. What happens after that?
Let's see if I wrote anything. Okay, so yeah, that's October 2020. We, we're together. We're pretty codependent at this point. This is when, like, I really don't feel like I have anybody else. Like, I lost my 2 closest friends. I had other friends, but, like, there's levels to it. Like, I didn't have, like, my tight support group. So it really was just, like, me and him. And then I became closer friends with another friend who my partner at the time would actually end up becoming roommates with and live with, and her boyfriend. So it was, like, this toxic, like, double trouble couple thing. Oh, crap. Going on. And so then January 2021, I get a call from his roommate, the girl roommate that I was friends with, and she essentially says that it's, like, 1 a.m. or something crazy. I've been waiting for him to text me all night. Like, he never texted me when he got off work. I'm like, what's going on? She calls me at 1 a.m. and says that there was a really bad fight between the boys, like my boyfriend and her boyfriend, and that she had to call the cops because my boyfriend essentially beat the crap out of her boyfriend and attempted to stab him and, like, got him pretty good in the neck. Goodness. So, and then obviously I, like, start crying, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then, like, 5 minutes later, like, Fayetteville PD calls me and is like, ma'am, do you know where your boyfriend is?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm assuming he's with you, sir. It was so bad. So traumatizing. So
he had given your phone number to the cops?
Yes, he had told the cops to call me and tell me that he loved me and that he was sorry.
Oh, dear.
And so the cop did, and again, like, broke up with him for, like, a week or 2. I, like, really tried to, like, actually break up with him, but then I lost another friend through this. There goes another friend. So I was just, like, so isolated, like, crazy isolated. I didn't feel like I had anyone. Also, the world was still in lockdown. It's not like I could just, like, go out and, like, make friends.
Were y'all still drinking about the same amount?
So when he got arrested, he actually had to stop drinking for a while because he had to live at a halfway house. And, so he didn't drink for, like, a couple months. And during the couple months, I would say, like, the abuse, like, the yelling and the fighting was honestly worse. Like, I don't even know how that's possible, but he was, like, way worse because he almost didn't have, like, alcohol to, like, calm him down. He was really on edge. He was really angry too because, he was back on probation. Like, he accepted responsibility. Like, he knew that he was in the wrong in the situation, but he also couldn't not be just, like, an asshole about it and, like, just really angry. But he was sober for a while, and I, like, kind of tried to be sober with him, but I, like, couldn't because he was so, like, bad to me still that I, like, kind of had to keep drinking to, like, numb it. And then that eventually kind of led to, like, him, like, secretly drinking while staying at the halfway house. And,
oh my goodness.
And that's a whole other story. That's, like, his story to tell. But yeah, and then in the spring, we actually would break up for about, like, the entirety of the summer. Like, I actually, like, was like, no, like, I cannot do this anymore. You were crazy and mean to me and all these things. And we break up, but my relationship with alcohol goes, like, through the roof if it wasn't already there. I was really upset about the breakup. Like, even though I knew it was for the best, I just, like, really, you know, when you just like really want someone to change, I really thought he could, and I really thought that like one day it would get better. But then at this point, we've known each other for, you know, a year, and it had only gotten worse. So I was just like really heartbroken and drinking a lot and going out with my single friends, and we would get into some crazy, like low-key, sometimes dangerous situations just from like drinking and like, you know, trying to find drugs and then finding drugs. And
what drugs were y'all using at the time?
I mean, mostly coke. Coke was definitely the thing I was doing the most of. But I would do anything. I mean, I remember like just being out and like, you know, when you're like a cute girl at a bar, like, man, it's so like college town shit too. Like, I feel like this is like not a thing everywhere, but men will literally just like walk up and be like, you want a Xanax bar? You want acid? Like, I just remember being like offered drugs all the time when I was like hot and single and like drinking a lot. And I would take whatever I could get. And during that time, I also kind of was in like a mini relationship / fling with someone who also was an alcoholic, of course, and doing like really hard drugs, like drugs that I wasn't doing, this person was doing. And yeah, no, I felt like I just couldn't be with anyone that wasn't on my level of drinking, and that led me to, you know, dating people that were...
People that wouldn't question what was going on?
Yeah, people that wouldn't, like, call me out or, like, question, and then also people that were, like, doing worse than me, you know what I mean? Because it's like...
So you don't look so bad.
Right. Exactly, yeah, I definitely was dating people crazier than me. But then, so, you know, summer comes and goes, and I get back with Abuser. And, yeah, things were, like, great at first. He was, like, really, like, I've changed over the summer. I've, you know, done all these things. I don't drink as much. I'm, like, you know, taking care of my health. I'm trying to quit cigarettes, like, all these things. And, again, you know, a couple months later, things kind of, like, hit the fan again, and things get really bad. I remember a lot of times, too, like... I would be so drunk that I would be, like, you know, sick, like, throwing up or, like, you know, peeing somewhere. And, like, he would, like we'd be having sex or something, and I would start throwing up because I was so drunk while we were having sex. And he would get mad at me for throwing up and, like, continue having sex with me while I was throwing up. It was, like, the grossest, like, craziest thing ever. And that's, like, that was really, I think, one of the times I was like, oh, this is so much worse than I even, like, could have ever imagined.
Damn, yeah, I'm sorry that happened. Oof.
Yeah, and there was a night that, this was, like, pretty close to when we would end up, like, breaking up for good. There was a night where we went out, and this, like, guy, and we were playing pool. This guy and his girlfriend were, like, just being really friendly to us and, like, offering us alcohol, and, like, he was buying us, like, so many tequila shots. Like, I mean, we must have each taken, like, 10 tequila shots, and we'd been drinking before that, too, so it was crazy. Now looking back, I low-key think this man was, like, a human trafficker or something, because the girl eventually leaves, and then when my partner at the time, like, he goes to the bar to get something, and this man kind of, like, grabs me, and I think to test and see how coherent I was, he, like, grabs me and tries to, like, pull me close to him and kind of tries to start, like, walking out the door.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know what to do. I knew that if my partner saw this man's hands on me, that, like, there was a chance this man, like, gets killed in front of me. So I'm like, I'm just not reacting. I'm just standing there. I'm like, someone noticed something. But then, of course, like, my partner, you know, catches the guy and essentially tries to, like, strangle him in the pool hall. A bunch of people are, like, you know, people have to break it up. A bunch of girls, like, come up to me and they're like, you know, like, we can give you a ride home. Like, where do you live? Like, we'll take care of you. And I'm like, no, like, I'm going to go home with my boyfriend. And they were like, we really don't think you should do that. Like, they were like, we really, really don't want you to do that. And I was like, no, this is my boyfriend. And they were like, but are you safe with him? And I was like, and I just remember, like, crying, like, to these random girls at this bar. But I did end up going home with him at night, too. But,
oh, my God. Wherever you are, random girls at the bar. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they were really trying to intervene and, like, really trying to talk sense into me. But, like, I was, like, 10 tequila shots deep. I was so far gone. Like, and there's, I mean, probably so many other instances that I don't even remember, you know, because I was blacking out so much during that period of my life. But, But yeah, so we eventually finally break up January 2022. I will never forget it. It was like, you know, every other night we're screaming at each other, we're yelling at each other, and something just inside me like snaps, and I'm just like, nope, never again. I'm not even attracted to you anymore. I don't even like you anymore. Like, there's like, the love is lost. Cannot. And yeah, no, we never rekindled things after that. So.
Dang. And at any point during this, were you questioning the drinking and drugs, or were you still just like grateful they were helping you numb out enough to survive? Like, where were you at with that, and when did the questioning start?
Yeah, no, I was just so in survival mode. I didn't even register of like what I was doing was, you know, too much or anything. And then after the breakup, I definitely like, you know, felt a sense of like freedom. Like I shaved my head. I, you know, I like rekindled friendships. Like I like reached out to people that I had like lost, because it wasn't just like close friends. It was like, I mean, like I said, this person had a reputation. Like a lot of people did not want me in their life just for being associated with this person. So I was like rekindling friendships, but also still drinking a lot. And then when I did start dating again, it very much was like, I'm only dating alcoholics. And I never dated anyone that was like as crazy as him ever again, or like bad to me. It was just, I definitely had to be with people that drank as much, if not more than me, or else like I couldn't. I mean, they probably would have called me out and I would have felt bad about it, you know?
Yeah. So when did it come up for you that you're like, I don't like how much I'm drinking anymore?
So I kind of just realized after, you know, being in a couple of these like fling type relationships that like, oh yeah, like I'm pretty much only dating alcoholics and people that really like to party. And not that these people are bad people, but it just kind of hit me like one day. And I was in a relationship with someone for a couple months, and it was like good. Like they were a really nice person, but like while I was with this person, I was like blacking out. Like I would like pee on things and like throw up in their car, and like I remember that they would like take me to parties and I would like get really drunk and like insult people because I was just like just too drunk. Like I was just drinking like too much for my little body. And then when that relationship ended, that was when it like really hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm only dating people because of how much they like to party and drink, and not because of who they are or like who I am and like what I want. Like I'm not focusing on what I want in life. I'm just focusing on party. And I was sober for the entire month of June in 2023. Yeah, sober for the entire month of June of 2023. And I felt like during that month, I processed everything I had felt for like the last decade. Like I just was like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing with my life? Like literally what the hell have I been doing with my life? Like why did I let that person like treat me so bad for 2 years on and off? Like why did I lose all my friendships over this? Like why has alcohol been like the center of my life for so long?
How did it feel to be confronted by all of that in the span of a month, especially after you'd been pretty numbed out for like, since you're a 13-year-old or something? How did that feel to just, that's a lot of intense thoughts all at once.
It was really crazy, but I think I knew that would happen, and I like wanted that to happen. Like I told myself when I first like stopped drinking for the month, I was like, all right, things are probably about to hit me really hard. Mm-hmm. Like this is probably about to be like really hard, but like really good for me. And it kind of was exactly that, you know.
And did you like have a therapist, or were you like, what did you have coping skills? Did you have cravings? Like what did you do during that month? Or were you just like, I have a goal, I'm doing a month, and that is it?
So I would say I leaned heavily on cigarettes during that month. I remember during that month, I probably smoked about 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Spent like $1,000 on American Spirits that month, honestly. But I wasn't drinking, so the budget was wide open. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I was like so over it. I was heartbroken from this last relationship that had ended, and I knew that like a lot of my issues in that relationship revolved around my drinking. I it had really hit me how much I was blacking out and how, like, not normal that was. I didn't realize that everyone else around me wasn't doing that. Because in the morning, you know, when people are like, oh, last night was so fun, remember, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nope, I don't remember anything past 10 p.m. Like, and that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, my God, like, not everybody that drinks blacks out.
I forget the statistic on it, but I was also shocked by learning that, too, because I've definitely blacked out towards the end every single time I drank, for sure.
Yes, that was really it. That was what it was for me, because I was like, now it's like, I never black out anymore, but at the time, I was drinking so frequently that I'm convinced that there was just so much alcohol in my system already that if I took 2 shots, I was already blacked out, because I had drank, you know, 10, 20 shots the night before. So it was just like, yeah, no, I definitely got to the point where it didn't matter how much I drank, I was blacking out and I was doing something embarrassing. That was the thing, is like, before that kind of point in my life, I really wasn't like a super embarrassing drunk, because I think I had to be the strong one in past relationships. But then, like, around that time, 2023, I was just blacking out all the time and being really embarrassing and really making a fool out of myself.
So the month of June went by. You learned some things about yourself. What happened in July?
I learned a lot about myself. In July, I did drink, but I truly never returned to the way I was drinking before. Like, I haven't blacked out since then. Like, I wouldn't say that I was completely drinking in moderation, because I definitely still had nights where, you know, me and the girls would go out and I would get a little crazy. But for the most part, I really felt like I had a grip on it. Like, it wasn't that bad. And then that was kind of when I started switching my goal to be like, okay, I really need to quit nicotine. That's like the one thing that I've struggled with the longest. And I was starting to actually feel the effects of it. Of course, after the month where I'm smoking 2 packs a day, I'm like, oh, wow, like, I don't breathe so good.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was like, oh, my gosh, like, breathing is hard. I also, you know, like, I like being somewhat fit. Like, I like doing yoga. I like going to the gym. I like biking. And that I really started to notice an effect on that when I was like, oh, my gosh, like, I can't just, like, casually bike 10 miles now. It's like I'm huffing and puffing, and yeah, that's not normal for me. But it took a while. Like, it wasn't until New Year's Eve 2024 was my last hit of nicotine ever.
Oh, wow. And you haven't had any since then?
Not at all. Not even in blunts. And I still smoke weed. But when my friends, like, roll up a blunt around me, I'm like, no. I'll smoke a joint. I'll, you know, smoke out of something else. But I just, zero nicotine. I just can't. I think it was my first addiction. It was the first thing I was, like, truly super, super addicted to. And I used it as, like, a numbing to my social anxiety when I was younger. And when I quit, all of the social anxiety came back. And I was like, oh, my God, yeah, I really was using it to numb more than I thought. Because I think a lot of people with nicotine don't realize how, I don't want to say psychoactive, because I guess it's not psychoactive, but how much it affects your mood and your behavior. I think a lot of people don't really see it that way. But now I know for a fact that it affects your mood and behavior, like, more than you even know.
Yeah, the irritability, for sure.
The irritability and, like, being in social groups and every single person around you is smoking a cigarette and you're not. Like, that is when you've been addicted to cigarettes for so long, like, I still, like, sometimes, like, going out with friends, and if everyone's smoking around me, like, my heart just starts, like, pounding, and I'm like, I need it. But it's just, like, feeling left out and feeling like the odd one out in a social environment again. You know, I literally feel like 12 years old again sometimes.
How do you cope with the cravings of nicotine? 6 months is a long time to be away from it. And obviously it's like, so many people smoke, and vaping is crazy because it's like you can fucking vape inside behind the server station. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Yeah. So it's like, it's in your face, you know, like, how do you cope with the cravings for it?
I think, well, for the longest time I didn't, you know, like, I didn't really quit overnight. Like, it was, you know, July or something, 2023, when I had the idea that I wanted to quit, but it wasn't until, you know, a year and a half later that I would actually quit. So it was months of relapsing. It was months of, like, going a couple days without a Juul, and then just like absolutely crashing out and like running to a gas station and getting one. But yeah, no, it was a lot of relapsing, a lot of like guilt and shame surrounding it. And I think I just hit my breaking point. Like I said, like with the really bad breakup, like something inside of me just snapped. And I was like, I just physically cannot partake in this anymore. And that's what I would tell myself. Like when I'd be around people and they'd offer me a hit of a vape, I'd be like, I physically cannot. Like I just can't. Like
you would say that out loud?
Yeah, no, to people, I would. I'd be like, I just can't. And they'd be like, oh, like, it's a new flavor. Like, it's grapefruit. And I'd be like, I physically cannot. Like, I'm just past that point in my life. You know, I smoked on and off from ages, like, 14 to 24. Like, I just cannot. Like, I'm done.
I love that. I talked a little about this in the episode, I think, with Sarah Hyatt, where it's like spontaneous sobriety or spontaneous whatever, where it's just like some magic trick happens inside of you and it's just fucking over and that's it.
Well, I think you have to kind of hit a pretty dark place for that to happen. Like I said, I was like actually suffering like health-wise. Like I was, you know, coughing up chunks of stuff because I was smoking so much and vaping so much and, you know, and just not feeling great. And it's hard when you work like food service industry. Like I feel like everybody smokes, everybody drinks so much. So it was really hard. Like I did feel really left out. I still feel left out sometimes, like working at the restaurant and like people go out to take a smoke break and I'm like, I can't really do that. I got no reason to, and I'm not just going to stand outside with people while they smoke in front of me. So and that feeling like never really goes away. But
yeah, what do you tell yourself when you get that social anxiety or that exclusion type of feeling? Do you have a trick that works for that?
Well, kind of. I feel like you and EK might have talked about this in y'all's episode. Like, you kind of get to a point with sobriety where you stop feeling FOMO and you start feeling more like, no, it's actually like badass that I don't like give in to this thing that everybody else is so addicted to. Like, it's actually like really cool that I don't need to puff on a little stick. Because think about it. They're adult pacifiers. People are walking around putting a little stick in their mouth every 20 minutes to calm them down. Adult pacifiers. That's what it is. And that's truly how I see it. Like, and no shame to anyone that still smokes and vapes, but like this is how I have to see it to not do it. It's like, grow up. Like, like just grow up. Like, get rid of the pacifier. Like, you don't need it. No, there's literally zero positive, you know, things that come out of it. Like, yeah, no, I just rewired my brain to think like, no, it's actually cool that I don't do it, you know?
Taking care of yourself is fucking cool.
I know, in this political climate, it's a radical act.
Hell yeah. Where are you at with drinking now?
Drinking, I would say, like, pretty moderate consumption. Like right now, when I think about like the last time I even had a drink, I mean, it's probably been a couple weeks, and I don't even, probably like 2 weeks, and it's like I wasn't even trying to not drink for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like when I do drink, I drink, but it's not something I sit around craving. I just got too much going on now. I feel like, you know, I work 2 jobs. I try to take care of myself. I, you know, have a really loving, amazing partner now that I want to spend time with. And he, actually, I should have brought him up more. He's a huge reason I don't smoke anymore and also don't drink, not because he ever shamed me or like told me not to. The way he lives his life, that's just not how he lives his life. It doesn't revolve around substances. He can, you know, have a couple beers on Saturday and then not think about beer again until next Saturday. You know what I mean? Like,
and does he not smoke either?
No, he doesn't smoke. So
yeah, sometimes it's just like, it's absolutely the company you keep. I mean, it's not like anyone's like forcing us to do anything or whatever, but it's just like sometimes we're social creatures, and the people we surround ourselves with are going to have a lot of effect on how we feel and our behaviors and our choices and stuff like that. So that makes sense. I'm really happy for you that you have like a nice, healthy, loving relationship. I think that's like a huge, amazing, like healing step for your journey. When you are drinking, is there that feeling of like, oh, just one more, like that on button, off button thing we were talking about earlier? Like, where do you get when you're drinking now?
I guess it kind of depends, because now I would say I do most of my drinking like with a meal. Like I, love a good like wine pairing or like a nice fancy cocktail at a nice restaurant. I really don't just like drink for the sake of drinking all that often. And when I do, there is a part of me that kind of struggles with like, okay, like, I've had like 3 cocktails, like what's one more? And then I have the next one and the next morning I'm hungover and I'm like mad at myself. So it's definitely something I still struggle with. I'm not like completely perfect, but I don't know. I feel pretty confident with my, when you look at where I started, I feel pretty confident at where I am now.
Do you ever like black out or have any awful consequences other than like having a hangover?
No, it's really just the hangovers. And I mean, I'll like say embarrassing things, like I get anxiety sometimes, but I'm not out here like insulting people or throwing up on people's cars or peeing in front of people, so that's a win,
That is a win. What do you attribute that change to? Was it just that month of June where like something happened in your brain, or is it like work you're actively doing, or is it like the part of it's a healthy partnership? Like, because there is this idea in society that it's like when you get to the point of being an alcoholic, the only thing you can do after that is be 100% completely abstinent or you'll die. Like you're always going to go back to being a horrible alcoholic. It's just a matter of time. And that's not real. And I don't believe that. And I have like several friends in my life that have had like horrible problems with drinking. And now it's like they have controlled use and drink in moderation. And it's not like, fucking white knuckling, teeth gritting, like, I can only have 3 and then I have to go home. It's like some people just be healed. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, their stories are like real and valid and important. And I'm just like, what do you attribute that change to in your life?
I mean, definitely a lot of things. Definitely the month of June, that was a magical month for me. But I do think I overall realized that, like, I wasn't drinking alcohol just because I liked alcohol. I was drinking alcohol because I was numbing things and didn't like myself and was unhappy with choices I had made and kind of, like, didn't want to be present. I didn't want to, like, be present in my life. And I think I just really focused on, like, every day, like, being present and like making little tiny changes in my life that made me happier overall, so I had nothing to numb myself from. Like now when I drink, it's not because I'm miserable and it's not because I had a bad day at work. In fact, now I don't let myself drink if I'm in a bad mood. Like I'll have plans to go out, and if I've had a really rough day at the salon or I'm just like not feeling it, I will be like, hey y'all, like I'm not in the headspace to drink. If I drank right now, there might be issues. So I think just like creating a life that I didn't have to numb myself from was really important, and just getting to like the root of it and knowing that like I wasn't struggling with alcoholism just because I just loved alcohol that much. It was all like mental health related,
Totally. That makes perfect sense to me. And how are you feeling with the like eating disorder type of stuff now?
Oh, I'd say like very good after that. That kind of was a little bit hand in hand with the alcoholism and the nicotine, and then also again just like being with a really like reaffirming partner that like loves me for me, and I know that whatever size or whatever I look like, I'm not like any less deserving of love because of that. I think that was the big thing, but that I feel like that is something that we never like truly recover from, because social media and society is just like constantly shoving in our throats like you have to look this way. So I still have like thoughts, and it's something I still am healing from, but like physically I would say I've like healed from it. Like I'm not like treating my body like shit because of it. I have days where I'm like, oh crap, like these pants don't fit anymore, like should I try to lose weight? Should I blah, 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 blah? And it's like pretty easy to talk myself out of those thoughts now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Society's so fucked up about fucking body image and size and all that shit. It's like, yeah, it's constant bombardment of how we should look. But you're right, and I'm glad that your partner is super loving and affirming, and that's really wonderful. Would you talk a little bit about smoking weed? That seems like it maybe was, if I'm reading the room right, it was never really a problem, and you still smoke weed and it's just fine and it's not really a problem.
So I would like to think so. I know other people say otherwise. I don't smoke as much as I used to. That's for sure. Like, it was a problem when I was smoking like all the time, to the point of like, you know, just being like a zombie every day. But now I just kind of like smoke a little bit at night just to kind of wind down. You know, like smoking with friends. For a while, it definitely was like self-medicating 100%. And I guess you could kind of say I use it as like sleep medication now. But yeah, it got me through some of the tough times for sure. But I don't feel like I struggle with like overuse anymore, which I would say I probably did struggle with overuse for a majority of my life. It was always there. Whether I was smoking, nicotine, or drinking, like weed was always there for sure.
So it's kind of taken a bit of a backseat, like how the alcohol's taken a bit of a backseat.
Yeah.
Similar story there.
Yeah.
And are you happy where you're at with the amount of different substances that you're using, or do you have abstinence as an ultimate goal, or where do you see yourself in the future?
I think my plan is kind of live my life a little bit, you know, like I'm 25. That's fine. I think for me, it's like because I do want to have kids, like being a mom is something that like is really important to me and is a goal of mine. And I think that there will be a day where I'm like, well, obviously I'll be pregnant and I won't be able to smoke or drink at all. And then from there, I think I'll just be like, okay, it's like not party time anymore. I gotta like be responsible. But I think there will be a day where I just like don't drink anymore. Maybe like not ever. Like I won't say like this is my last sip of alcohol ever, but I definitely think it'll be like way just like off my radar, and like I won't even be thinking about going out and drinking with friends. I'll be like, no, I have like a family and things to do. But yeah, I don't know.
What do you think people don't understand about addiction?
I think people don't understand that like when you're in it, it doesn't feel like a choice. It truly is a disease. Like I was not consciously ever like, oh yes, like I must drink half a bottle of vodka because I want to. It's like you have to be going through something or be really mentally unwell, I think, to get to that point. And I think a lot of people just see it as like, well, just stop drinking, just choose not to drink. And it's like, no, it's a really physically addicting substance. Like it's not something you can just choose one day to stop. I mean, you can, I guess, because people do.
Yeah.
But when you're in the thralls of it, like when you're deep in it, like and it's something you just don't know until you know. But yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that makes sense. I've definitely experienced that a time or two before. Mm-hmm. If you could speak to someone who is deep in their addiction today, what would you say to them?
I would say you're not bad or wrong for like, you know, what you're going through right now. And maybe the key is not being hard on yourself, but maybe being easier on yourself. Because I feel like shame only continues the cycle harder. And I think sometimes when you can like step back and be nice and gentle with yourself, you actually can take the steps you need to recover.
100%. I feel like someone, and in my experience, when I hated myself, I wasn't putting forth any effort or work to try to feel better because I felt like I didn't deserve to feel better.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And as soon as I started like, well, I did fake it till you make it with self-love for sure. At first it was like, what would someone who loves himself do? And then like try to do that. And then eventually I did start loving myself. And then that's when real recovery started. So I think that's wonderful advice. Thank you for talking today. It was really a wonderful conversation. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've wanted to do this like since your first episode. I just needed to gather my thoughts.
Thank you. Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.